So Ashton, tell us about how you started Freedom Fitness Equipment.
Sure. Literally started out of my backyard. We have a sunroom in the back of the house, and it's all glassed in. And I bought my first Titan T3 lime green rack, which I tell you, much like Adam at Garage and Lab, lime green is my favorite accent color ever. So I bought that and I flipped it, and I think I doubled my money. And this was right at the beginning of COVID. So COVID had started. All of the gyms that we were thinking about becoming members at were starting to shut down. We were starting to switch gym memberships and then realized it was a lost cause. And I bought that rack, bought some plates, bought a used barbell, I think at the time, flipped that rack, and then flipped some plates, and then flipped some more stuff and some more stuff and some more stuff. And eventually I just realized I couldn't actually keep up with demand. Like, I had enough for my home gym. That was fine. But I also had all this other equipment that I was able to sell immediately as soon as I got it, just by putting it up on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. And I went, this could be a thing. This could be a business. So I kept doing that for a while, and it was really just a side hobby for months. And after a while, I look at my wife and I go, I've actually got recurring customers now, and I've got people that are coming back. Do you think this could ever become a business? And she goes, oh, heck yeah. So we always treated people well. That little side hobby expanded into a fully built on-site, like 400 square foot shed that we have in the back of our house, and then into a 2-car, like temporary tent carport. And then from those 2 buildings plus the sunroom into a pod. And at that point I went, we should probably get a warehouse. We had way too much equipment, and we just kept selling and selling and selling. And when we got to that point, I looked at my wife and I go, yeah, we have a legitimate business model. I said, if we can test this out for about 6 months and it does very, very well, then we know it can probably do decently well even outside of the pandemic. So we started the business back in March of 2020, unofficially. We went to an LLC in July of that year, and we moved into our first warehouse, I think, that November. So all within a year, we went from the back of my house into a warehouse. And then we doubled that space a year later. Went from a 2,000 square foot warehouse to what we have now, which is about 4,000 or so square feet. And the whole time, the other part of that was I was working in finance at the time, a 9-to-5 corporate gig, which I absolutely despised. And I just gotten so frustrated with, I was in product, I used to be in IT, went to product management, thought I could fix issues within IT by being on the business side. Turns out that doesn't happen, not in that world. And they gave us an opportunity to leave with some sort of compensation package. And I said, yeah, I'm out. So we left in November and never looked back. And I still, to this day, I have customers that are clients that have, seen me in my shed in the back of my yard and come to the warehouse that we have today. It's really, really cool. I also, at the time, had a little bit of a rebellious streak, so I dyed my hair electric green. That was quite something. I don't know if I have any photos of that, but I'll have to share that with you guys if I can find some. Because I told myself if I ever became financially independent that I would do that. I wasn't at the time, but I just did it for fun because we were all working from home, so who cares? Yeah, so we expanded that warehouse, and it was always reselling basically. So buying used equipment, either fixing it up, or if it didn't need to be fixed up and it was good, just reselling it. And that's what we do today. It was really hard starting out. I talk a little bit about this in my own podcast on the very first episode. We would do a lot of retail arbitrage. So, if Walmart had a sale, we would kind of buy at their discounted rate. And then, once things normalize, we just sell that at regular price. So there was some retail arbitrage early on, but a lot of it was, like just going out and scrapping around and finding stuff on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist that we could buy in bulk and then resell at a profit. And now we are able to do that at scale. So we've got gyms coming to us, other apartment complexes coming to us. And so we have a lot more equipment now. We're actually running out of space again. So we'll probably have to double our square footage again at some point. But that's how we got started, just back of the yard and then blowing out and leaving my job and going solo. It's been nerve-wracking, but super rewarding. Way more rewarding than anything else I could have done.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's kind of a question I was developing as you're telling your story. Is it sounds like you're finding equipment around and that's what you started reselling. Mm-hmm. As the pandemic started, continued, I should say, and gyms really started to shut down, did you have this like huge influx of like gyms are shutting down, let's buy all their stuff? And how did you finance that?
That is a great question. So I don't know if you guys know who Dave Ramsey is, but I've always been a huge Dave Ramsey fan. And so all of our business has been on a cash operational basis. We do not take on debt. I didn't even have a credit card for the business until just recently. We kept up with it by literally just scrapping around and finding inventory as hard and as fast as we could. And that's how we kind of kept up. But we personally, because we were just starting, didn't see this huge influx of gyms coming to us or even us going out to gyms and saying, oh, we can buy all of your inventory, mainly because we didn't have the space. Like you would think with a 2,000 square foot warehouse that you'd be able to buy out, a decently sized gym, but one gym takes up all of that. Like even if you go vertical and you start doing pallet storage. And so the issue for us was, yeah, we could go to these gyms. We could go to a CrossFit gym that's closing down, or we could start advertising and saying all that. But we don't even know where to put it. And we still kind of have some of that. Like we can't buy out like a Life Fitness or a full YMCA because we're just limited on space. But we'll make partial deals with people and do trades and that kind of thing because we want to still have inventory. But we finance it completely on a cash basis. So we have zero debt with the business. The only thing that's debt related is the lease and the utilities. If we ever have to go into debt significantly, the business will shut down. So we just won't do it. And that sounds like a fool's errand for some, but it keeps our family safe and happy, and my wife secure, and our financial situation secure, and I never have to worry about am I going to need to pay bills this month and feed my family, or am I going to have to like pay off the business debt? So I don't know. It just makes way more sense for us to do a cash basis, and it's been in that business. You can succeed in lean times during recessions because everybody's looking for a deal, just as well as you can during COVID times when everybody's looking for whatever. So it seems to work either way.
Yeah, I mean, you hear people telling like, the beginning of their business stories, and some of them get kind of scary. Like, I dumped all these credit cards and I borrowed all this money and I went all in. And it's, I'm sitting here listening to some of these stories like, oh, you did what?
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool you could operate like that. I'm listening to you like talk about bringing all this equipment in, and I picture myself in your shoes. And the problem I would have is every time I got something really cool, I don't just want to keep it. So do you ever have to fight that urge, or?
Bro, oh my goodness. Yeah, pretty much every day. I mean, we get in, and it kind of helps because a lot of this commercial equipment is a lot of the stuff we bring is commercial equipment, and a lot of it's just gigantic. But I mean, just recently we started buying blemished Kansas power bars, or basically the Iron Cowboy that Elite FTS sells. And I love aggressive knurling. And so like I can't keep my hands off of some of these bars. And I really want to bring all of the bars home and just try them out. I have to tell myself, no, you have to stay. You have to sell this. It's not. And some of the like the leg curl extension stuff that we were just talking about, like I want to bring some of that home because it's much nicer than the Titan one that I have. But I'm pretty happy with my setup. But yeah, there's a few pieces from time to time where like, man, I don't know if I want to sell this.
Do you have a space set up in your warehouse where you can just like, as it's there, it's kind of like, I don't know, you're fostering like puppies and you can play with them for a while before like someone comes and takes them. So you can play with this equipment, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're fairly tight on space, but I can always mess around with the equipment. In fact, I've gotten a workout or two in on the just the basic home gym setup that we've got in the warehouse. So I've got like a bar rack and plates and just a basic like 2x2 tube rack, and it works out really nice. And people can come in and kind of try stuff out, but. Yeah, most of the time I'll have worked out in the morning anyway. But the cool thing about being in the used equipment space is I can try out stuff I have never seen before and talk about and experience brands that are so old school that people they're not even produced. Maxicam, Panada Sport, like some of the really old like Nautilus equipment, they just don't make anymore with the chain driven assemblies. And some of this stuff is, man, you wouldn't believe it, how smooth it operates and the way they've constructed this. A lot of people, I've talked to some gym owners even about like the old school hammer strength stuff is built even better than they do today. And I thought hammer strength was pretty darn well built. But they said it's kind of become a little bit flimsier as time has gone on. But yeah, really cool just to get to see that old school stuff and sitting on it and feeling how smooth it is. It's amazing, some of the engineering.
Yeah, it's got to be a sad day when they come and take your favorite pieces away.
I know, right?
Yeah. Your company is reselling equipment, but you've also have this media portion of it. So you have your podcast. How long has that been going on?
Oh, man. So we're episode 52. I think we just hit episode 52 or 53. It's a breakneck speed. So we had one per week. It's an hour-long podcast on average, uncut, and a new guest every single podcast. The only original guest, the only time we didn't have a guest was when the first podcast, which was just me talking about the business. And I'm not going to say that it's hard to find guests because it's actually easier than you might think finding even decent like fitness influencers or people in the health and fitness space. It's not like they're a dime a dozen. There are a number of them that are good that are out there, and they also know people who can refer you. But I've had to back off of that because it's a lot, and so we're going to one every 2 weeks now going forward, just because I don't have time, and I'm also not promoting it like I should. Like I'm not doing what you guys are doing as far as getting the word out there. I think I've got one review on the podcast currently, and I want to make it about quality over volume. Even though I'm a big believer in quantity, it takes a lot of effort. I want to make sure that the guests we're having on, the topics we're discussing, actually help our audience, as opposed to, hey, here's a really cool person, let's chat with them, without any purpose. And that's kind of what it was becoming. So I'm trying to back off of that and be topical and actually help the audience a little bit. So, but it's been great. We've had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to put you in a weird spot, but who's your favorite guest you've had on?
So I was looking at this question and I was trying to think, because there have been a ton of guests that I actually genuinely love that are in my top one or two, and I had to break it down into who is the most iconic that we've had on versus who is the most memorable. So most iconic, there's two of them. One is Gabby Burgholzer. She's the America's Strongest Woman. I think she still holds that title. She was phenomenal. I was a nobody. She just came on the podcast out of the goodness of her heart during an event called FitCon, which is in Texas. They have that actually in 3 locations now per year. But she came to the hotel. We sat in the lobby, did a podcast. She was great. She's gigantic and like insanely strong. The other person I've been mentioning a couple times is Adam at Garage Gym Lab. It was one of the first 10 episodes, and I message him, I think almost out of the blue, and he just goes, "Yeah, no big deal. Come on down." He was in Indian Trail, or not Indian Trail, in South Carolina, right over the border, and I just come over to his house, and it was one of my first in person that we were doing. And man, dude, I was telling Jake this, I screwed up midway through that podcast, and I was still learning how to ask good questions without pausing and trying to catch my train of thought, or as you're talking, you're thinking about the next question, right? And so I would lose my train of thought instantly. So midway through the podcast, I completely blanked, and just sat there I felt like 5 minutes trying to recover. And there's a gap in the podcast, and I didn't cut anything. I was just like, I'm gonna look like an idiot, and it's fine. But he was super gracious about all of that. It ended up being fine. So those are the two iconic. And then the most memorable ones were, and you probably don't know this guy, but his name's Chad. He's a local guy. He runs he's in Albemarle, North Carolina. He runs a place called Lifter's Gym. And he's like the most relatable, down to earth. I consider him a friend. And he's a lifter, bodybuilder, runs his own place, very fiscally savvy, and has a lot of really cool stories. He was one of the guys that's kind of a no-name, but really popular as a podcast interview. And I just really enjoyed talking to him. And then David Ziegler was the other guy. David Ziegler's got 600 and something thousand followers on TikTok right now. And he might be somebody else you've never heard of, but he's also a bodybuilder. He's also in he's close to Raleigh in North Carolina, and also super down to earth. But that man has stories like, he was telling me, Oh yeah, I used to stick steaks down I used to go to the grocery store when I was a young bodybuilder and stick steaks down my pants because that was the only way I could survive when I was living by myself in a roach-infested apartment. So stuff like that, I'm like, what? Super memorable. So those stand out. Those four, I guess. You know, Gabby was kind of the big one, but David and Chad were also really good, as well as Adam.
Yeah, you mentioned TikTok, and you're active on TikTok. How's that working out?
It's been good. It's been aggravating because it's such a grind, along with every other form of social media, just putting out enough content to make you continue to grow. And I'm not doing as well as you know, a lot of others, but we're growing steadily. The thing about TikTok is, and Jake, I know you just got on it, but there are a lot of young, uninformed a-holes on TikTok. And they love to tell you about how wrong you are about everything. And it's usually some dude, user 50764, who has no profile picture and no videos. And they're like, you don't know what you're talking about. And this is why I'm qualified. And they're not qualified at all. Or they'll put their finger on something that is a personal, not weakness, but a personal issue that you have with yourself, and they'll be like, you were that. And you go, how dare you? How dare you point out something about me?
Trolls, man.
Exactly.
It's always the private follow or the private users who follow 17 people, have 0 followers that aren't afraid to speak their mind. Yeah, 0 posts.
Yeah.
That's their side handle where they just troll and not actually like share who they are.
It's true. The nice thing though about TikTok is I have been able to connect more with. I'll go from TikTok to Instagram. Like if I find them on TikTok, I'll usually message them on Instagram. But I found more really good fitness content on TikTok that I wouldn't necessarily have found on Instagram, and sometimes vice versa. But people like Sabrina McMullen, Olivia Pellish, like evidence-based strength training and that kind of thing. Guys like Ziegler Monster that I would have never known about. David Ziegler. Yeah, so it's got its pros and its cons. It's just a very immature platform compared to Instagram, both from an audience perspective as well as like a content perspective. There's a lot of people on there that just don't know what they're talking about, so you got to be careful.
So you're building out like this media corner of your business, and you started the best home gym websites.
Yes.
So how did that start?
Yeah, so I decided that I was sick of not finding good home gym review content. So, and when I first decided to do this was back in like June or July of 2021, and I wanted to recognize people like Jake at Garage Gym Experiment, Basement Brandon over at Brandon Campbell Diamond in his videos, Adam at Garage Gym Lab. I wanted to recognize those guys publicly for the really good work that they were doing, the honest, genuine approach that they were taking, how they were filling in the home gym community. And when I was looking around online, because I was trying to find more good garage gym review websites, I actually couldn't find them. There was no top 10 list. There was no summary anywhere. And there still isn't, aside from the list that I created, of top 10 home gym review websites that are actually reliable and you can actually trust for good reviews. There's a lot of pages, if you do a Google search, that have top 10 lists for bikes and treadmills and ellipticals, and they're just Amazon ClickBanks. They are literally just affiliate links directly into Amazon for cheap Nordic Track, Gold's Gym, Marcy products that nobody should ever buy in their right mind. But these guys were all doing good work, and then I started slowly to find some others. It was really hard in the first iteration, so in the 2021 version, there were a couple of, like Joe Gray from Gray Matter Lifting was doing some reviews, but he was more of a blog. I included him anyway because I was just trying to find some guys to put on there. But then in 2022, I found people like King of the Gym's Lifting and As Many Reviews as Possible with CrossFit, and started putting those guys on there because they're more review focused. But I wanted something that was going to give people actual genuine reviews and not BS them, honestly. I also, frankly, did it because if I'm the one giving out the award, people will see Freedom Fitness Equipment as a brand. They'll associate that with some sort of reputable source. And I can stand behind that a little bit. You know, all those websites can honestly have their own little bit of clout and say, hey, I've got this badge. You know, I was the best home gym review website for 2021 or 2022. And it helps both of us in that way. But yeah, it was hard. It was really hard starting out, and it still is. And I have concerns about one of those review sites in particular that I'm probably going to have to address in the next year.
Well, that takes us to our follow-up question, and it says, what issues are you seeing in gym equipment review space?
Oh, man. So I really don't want to dump all over Coop at Garage Gym Reviews, but it's really hard for me not to right now because of how much I've learned about that organization now. It's not just him. It's an organization. It's a media conglomerate. So he got bought by Pillar. And the more I hear about that kind of stuff happening with his organization, and the more I'm worried about others falling into the same trap. Like, it's the same concern that I had with Rogue that I mentioned earlier. When you become so corporatized, you just lose all sense of community. And Coop started doing stuff like reviewing things and making basically glorified ads for things that either he hadn't tried or he had only used once. And that was really frustrating. So I may have to revisit the metrics for which I'm evaluating this, but yeah, the things that for me stick out the most as what would get you on the list is, if you have genuine takes and if you have an emphasis on, good, authentic content. The issues that I see today within the gym equipment reviewer space are a lack of genuine takes. You're basically just reviewing this thing because you got paid. And also, and this is just overall weakness with the gym equipment review space, is a lack of reviews at all on used gym equipment. I'm trying to change that a little bit just with my content, but it's way, way easier to do new equipment. I totally understand that. It's just, you can buy it and it's readily available. With the used gym equipment, it's all over this place. It's hit and miss. But I think there's a big need and then kind of an underserved part of the community where the emphasis on used gym equipment would be super beneficial. How to get it, where to source it. I think Adams and Jake, you may have done some content on this, but there's no ongoing content around that. I only know of a handful of people that kind of do anything related to used gym equipment.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. That was kind of in that last question, but I guess you could take it a step further if you need to. What's it take to get on that list?
So for me, transparency. So do you have funding? Where's the funding coming from for your reviews? What's the motive for your review? How do you evaluate that particular item compared to other brands that may or may not be paying you? What kind of variety do you have in your brands? What I really appreciate is when people review brands like Black Widow training gear. It's a guy in his apartment with a, what do you call it? A CNC, machine making really good handmade gym equipment I've got the safety squat bar, which is like my absolute favorite safety squat bar ever in my home gym. And I don't think he gets a lot of attention just because he's tiny. So variety brands, and then usage time and complexity of review. So like depth of detail, how much King of the Gyms does a really good job of this. Like he's got pages and pages and pages, way more than I think most any other reviewer does on everything that he reviews. And usually I associate the depth of the review with the amount of time that you spent with the item. I know that's not always the case, but the more you can say about the item, the more likely it is that you've actually used it and thought about it, over time, instead of banging out a review within 2 days of you getting it. So that's my metric.
Yeah, I like it. Well, looking forward to the 2023 one coming out. Around what month do those come out?
So we're going to try to do this on an ongoing basis. The last one came out in 2021. We had an August release, and then subsequent to that, we're planning to do the release in, December. So last one I think we had was just this past December, or maybe it was January. And then
I caught myself saying wrong. I said 2023. 2022 one. When is that coming out?
Yep. So that'll probably come out. So that should come out around December of this year.
And you always do a video rundown of the list as well, don't you?
No, that was a new one for this year. So that was.
I really appreciated it, by the way.
Yeah.
So keep
absolutely,
it up.
I appreciate it. Yeah, so I got a freelance contractor to do the editing and just ran through the list. I thought it would be helpful for people who don't like to read through a big long article, and posted that at the top, and away we went. So I think I'll probably do that going forward. It's just I like the video content better anyway. So I'll write an article, put it on the website, and then add a video to it later.
No, I asked Ashton after the last one. I think we came in at 3. It's like, what does it take to? Well, I'm just curious. Over the next year, what would be some things that we can do?
Take?
Yeah,
how many dollars?
So he gave us some stuff to work on. I wouldn't really consider a Garage Gym experiment like your typical reviews site, though. Mm-hmm. Like we're really trying to simplify the process and also keep people informed with these surveys and that type of stuff. So yeah, I mean, he did give us some good feedback. Well, I'd be curious though.
I read through it as well.
Yeah, I think I forwarded you the email.
Yeah, organization of the website, finding past reviews, things like that. Yeah, that's good stuff.
But yeah, Ashton, I don't have a relationship at all with Coop, but I'd be curious to hear like, where did you hear it doesn't surprise me to hear that. Mm-hmm. Where is this type of stuff coming from? Because it was pretty specific. Yeah, what you said.
This is all coming from other Garage Gym Review, either Garage Gym Review sites or enthusiasts in the space that are related to those sites. So, I'm not going to name names, but right. These are people that are actually in the know about that space, and it makes me pause about putting people like that further up in the list because I'm just not clear about the motive. Here's the thing that really, really puzzles me about guys like Coop is, he goes in and I can't really find anything wrong about the content per se. So that's why I keep him up there, because he actually is pretty critical of some of the design stuff related to, stuff like Rep Fitness and Titan and guys that are paying him. I know they're paying him, but at the same time, I'm like, so what are the things you're not doing that you could be doing that you're not doing because you're getting paid by certain brands? So that's where my frustration lies. But yeah, I'm getting that information. I'm just piecing together slowly through things people are telling me that are in the home gym and garage gym review space.
Got it. Real quick, I have a question. We have never done this, but we've been offered. What would you say, like, if somebody offered you, say they want a product review, mm-hmm. and they don't necessarily want you to skew a review, but they want you to have a little more incentive to hurry up and do a review. Or just like, I personally have a pretty long backlist of things to get to. Both Adam and I do. So they may say something like, we're willing to pay if you can get a review out quicker. And I have honestly never even really explored it or asked follow-up questions. But let's just say I was like, all right, how about X amount of dollars? And I'll get it to you in the next month, mm-hmm. and it'll still be an honest review. So you have to just be prepared for that.
Yeah.
So any issues with that? Is that something that would trigger you?
No, not at all. I think you're still approaching it honestly and transparently, right? So you want enough time to be able to review the thing and to be able to use it. And they're paying to expedite the review, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially if you're disclosing, hey, I've only had a month with this thing. First of all, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting paid. I don't think there's anything wrong with using something for a short amount of time, as long as you're disclosing how long you've been using it and how much you may or may not be invested in this product based on length of usage. But I think all of that needs to be disclosed in the review, as far as, we're reviewing this a little bit more quickly than we might normally. Here's some of the drawbacks of that, but here's our honest review, and we're not letting anything related to being an affiliate of this company influence the review. I think that's the biggest key. And for me, if that transparency and honesty is there as part of the reviewer's MO, like yours is, I have zero issue with it. I just think there's so many behind the scenes things going on with some other people that it makes it kind of murky,
Yeah, I have heard of some shady stuff going on. So,
all right, that's going to wrap up the queue. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just meant to mention one thing. I wanted to lay this out there for people that are listening. For anybody who's listening who hasn't invested any time in looking at used gym equipment, is just looking at the new stuff. Used commercial gym equipment is where it's at. And I don't say that just because we sell it. I say that because there's a lot of it on the used marketplaces that is a steal. And if you're in the home gym community and the garage gym community, I know guys are always looking for deals on the used marketplace. Commercial gym equipment will last longer, and under residential usage, particularly on the cardio side, will probably last longer than you will, or even maybe your house. Some of this stuff is fully welded. It's amazing, and I'm trying to put out more content about it. But if anybody's on the fence about, hey, should I get this commercial rack, or hey, should I get this commercial treadmill? Know the brands. I mean, you can watch our content or anybody else's content on the internet to look at what kind of brands are most reliable. You know, most of these commercial brands are going to be great anyway, because if you're not beating on them in a commercial setting, you're just using it once or twice, a week at home. Like I said, it'll last forever. So I say that for people in the home gym community because I think it's a good tip for anybody that's looking for deals that is kind of thinking outside of the residential space, and things to look for that aren't Titan, Rep Fitness, Rogue. You could look at a Life Fitness, a Cybex, a Hammer Strength, French Fitness, MaxiCam. Like, those are all really good brands and will last a long freaking time. So anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox, but pro tip.
All right, guys, that's going to do it. That wraps it up. We want to thank Ashton for joining us tonight. Ashton, can you tell the people where they can find you?
Absolutely. freedomfitnessequipment.com. And then all of our social media pages, except for Instagram, are going to be Freedom Fitness at Freedom Fitness Equipment. On Instagram, it's at Freedom Fitness Equipment 1.
Perfect. All right. Well, did you guys like tonight's episode? Well, then be sure to follow the Garage Gym Experiment on Instagram to take part in our surveys. Stay active on the website to get up-to-date content on building out your home gym. Give us a follow on YouTube and keep listening to the Garage Gym Experiment podcast. Jake, anything else for the people?
No.
That's it, guys. Bye.